I saw the headline the other day, and maybe you did too. It was another report from the UN, another stark warning in a long line of them. It felt familiar, almost routine. The constant drumbeat of grim news about our planet has a way of becoming background noise. But this one cut through. It said that despite all our plans and pledges, the world is on course for up to 2.5 degrees Celsius of warming this century, a level that scientists agree risks catastrophic consequences. My first reaction, I admit, was a cynical shrug. People have been warning us about this for decades, and the feeling is that plans are not actions. What good is a promise from a politician or a pledge from a corporation when the lines on the graph keep going up? It's easy to read that headline and conclude that we've failed, that the story is already written and the ending is bleak. But that feeling of inevitability is a trap. Because while the headlines paint a picture of total failure, the real story is happening underneath. If you push past the despair and dig into the data, a surprising counter-narrative begins to appear, one that's crucial if we want to avoid paralysis. Just 10 years ago, the world was on track for about 4.2 degrees Celsius of warming. Today, based on current policies, that projection has dropped to around 2.8 degrees Celsius. That's not a coincidence. It's being driven by a revolution in how we generate power. Solar and wind energy now account for over 90% of all new global electricity capacity. For the first time, they've overtaken coal as the dominant source of new energy. That clean energy boom has in turn triggered another transformation. Electric vehicles are being adopted twice as fast as expected under the Paris Agreement timeline. And it's not just happening in the West. Wealthy nations have cut their per capita emissions by 30 to 40% over the past 2 decades, even accounting for imports. Meanwhile, China's massive investment in renewables has started pushing it toward what looks like a long-term emissions decline. Put all that together and the picture changes. The International Energy Agency now estimates that warming could level off around 1.8 degrees Celsius, far from safe, but significantly better than the apocalyptic 4 degrees futures we used to fear. It's proof that progress, while uneven, is real. But here's where it gets complicated. That optimism is fragile, because those numbers aren't predictions, they're projections. They assume that every nation actually delivers on its commitments. And if history tells us anything, it's that promises in climate policy are easily broken. From Kyoto to Copenhagen to Paris, we've seen target after target missed. Much of today's optimism rests on U.S. commitments that could vanish overnight if leadership changes and pulls the country out of the Paris Accord again. Even with the renewable boom, global emissions aren't falling yet. They grew by 2.3% in 2024, hitting a record high. The G20 alone is responsible for 3/4 of those emissions, and among the 6 biggest polluters, only the EU managed to reduce its greenhouse gases last year. And then there's the chilling truth behind these so-called optimistic scenarios. Even at 2 degrees Celsius of warming, coral reefs, essential to the ocean ecosystem, are expected to be 99% gone. So yes, progress exists, but it's precarious. The margin for error is razor thin. That brings us to the human side of all this, the emotional war between hope and despair. We live in a time when data can both inspire us and terrify us. On one hand, we've done more to shift the planet's trajectory in the last decade than many thought possible. On the other, the challenge ahead still looks overwhelming. Somewhere in that tension, a new form of inaction has taken hold, doomerism. It's the belief that it's all too late, that nothing we do matters anymore. And that mindset, ironically, serves the same purpose as denial. It stops us from acting. There are 2 voices inside most of us. One says the system is too broken, that money and politics will always win, that the future is doomed. The other asks something simpler. So what? Do we just give up then, or do we keep trying anyway? Because the truth is, the story isn't finished. The future isn't decided. What's unfolding now is a contest between our extraordinary capacity for innovation and our equally powerful tendency toward inertia. We've already proven that we can bend the curve of warming downward. Whether we finish the job depends on the choices we make from here. Every action counts, from the person who decides to install a 25-kilowatt solar array on their roof because it gives a better return on investment than the stock market, to the collective push for better policies and smarter technologies. The story of climate change isn't one of inevitable doom or guaranteed salvation. It's an unfinished story, and it's still ours to write.